A strong weekend. That's what I'm going to start this with. A strong weekend. Strong performances from New York City. From the Catholic schools to PSAL to NICEACE, the private schools. A very strong showing from New York City at the Eastern States Classic this past weekend, January 10th and 11th. Very strong showing. We only had one champion, a returning champion, right? And also a returning state champion in Evin Gursoy, but everybody else that placed, I watched the matches and they wrestled really well. I mean, at a tournament like this, you have to wrestle really well in order to place, but some really cool things happened, and these guys that got themselves on the podium, they really earned it. We got 5 of them across all 3 divisions, PSAL, Catholic, and private. We got 5 places. 5 boys' places, and I'm here to talk about how they went on and did it. So since I'm covering 5 wrestlers, I'm not going to go through every single match they had. Some of them I'm only going to go through 2 matches. The other one, I'm going to go through 3 matches. You'll notice as I go through the list. And the reason for that is I tried to do like 3 for everyone. But for some reason on flow, sometimes the video will cut off early, things like that. That I can't control that, right? I'm not there. I'm not working the cameras there, so just had to make do with what I was able to cover here. But obviously covering every single match will make the episode way too long. But if you haven't figured out already, you listen to Techfall Tabletalks. I am your host, as always, Julius Grit, and this is episode 78. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. We're going to start off with the champ, Evin Gursoy, 124 pounds. So in the round of 64, he's going against Andrew DiBiase. For any WWE fans, you might recognize that last name. It would be really cool if he's related to Ted, but I doubt it. But yeah, there's a little Easter egg there for any WWE fans. But anyway, so Evin Gursoy, 124 pounds from Midwood High School. Shout out to Coach Dowd. The first period, Evin pushes the pace right away, and that's part of how he's gotten so much better over the past couple of years. That's how he got that first state title. And then he goes and hits a nice double leg, then a cross-rest tilt. 7-0 is a score right now at that moment. A few more tilts gets a score to 13-0. That's the mark of a high-level wrestler, putting up over 10 points on the scoreboard in the very first period. Second period comes, he escapes from bottom and circles around very fast like he teleported. And he got the tech. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Semifinals, he goes against Vincent Mastrani. Evin gets the first takedown, single leg to a double. That's a very popular takedown in MMA as well, just to point that out. And Evin just rolled him out for the rest of the period. Very tough rider. And that's what it took. He didn't force anything, any tilts or anything that he probably would have gotten reversed on. He didn't want to risk anything, so that's good. Second period, a stalemate in the beginning. Mastriani just couldn't find an opening right away. Mastriani did a better job later on of stopping Evin's attacks, though, in that period. And then he caused another stalemate. Then Evin goes for a high crotch, comes through the back door. Now the score is 6-0. Third period, Evin escapes from bottom. Shortly after, Mastriani gets some injury time. Probably hurt his leg or something. Then they shake hands, start wrestling again. Evin finishes a high crotch on his second shot attempt. He got stuffed in the first one. Then he got the score to 10-0. And then Evin just rolled him out for the remainder of the third period, winning 10-0. And then the finals. So I'm skipping ahead, obviously. He goes against Maverick Beckwith from Norwich. I think that's Vermont. I could be wrong. That might just be the name of the school or whatever. But the first period, First takedown, a little single fake, backdoor. Yeah. Evin's like go-to type stuff right there. And then some tilt attempts, couldn't turn him. And he was just on top for the rest of it. Second period, Evin tries to stand right up. He winds up catching Beckwith's head and reversing him, then tilting him for some back points. Gets a score to 9-0. And then he just rolled him out for the remainder of the period. The third period comes around. Evin got stuck in the front headlock, scrambled, got scored on, but it didn't matter because he was already up by a lot. He had 9 points, and his opponent had 0, so when his opponent got 3 points, it didn't matter. Your 2025 Eastern States champion at 124 pounds, Evin Gursoy. I believe this is his second one. I remember talking about it last year. So, 2-time Eastern States champ, soon to be a 2-time New York State champion. Let's see what it can do come this February. And a lot of these guys, I might not know, like the opponents, I might know their score. So if I know the score, I'll mention it. If I know the opponent, I mention it. Like later on, there's going to be some significant opponents later on, or at least one. But next up, Ziko Madjidov, 152 pounds from Poly Prep. So he wound up taking third place. So in the round of 32, he goes against Chris Ferranti from Chaminade. Shout out to Coach Acadinho. Chaminade's in Long Island. Chaminade's a good team. I know a bunch of the guys. Very good Catholic school. So the first period, Ziko hit a slide by, scored, cut his opponent, hit another slide by, scrambled around a little bit, and then scored again. So the score is 6-1. His opponent escapes, then Ziko scored again, attempted a cradle, and then his opponent escaped, and then his opponent wound up scoring, but the video ended at 12-4 Ziko, so Ziko was up on the scoreboards by the time the video ended. Like I said earlier, Flo kind of had issues with the cameras and stuff. You guys probably know about this, so the video cut off, so I couldn't really figure out what happened for the rest of the match. But it's obvious that Ziko won the match. Here's a full match to cover. The semifinals. He's going against Evin Shibi. The first period, Ziko hit a go behind for 3, then cut his opponent. After this, it was just a lot of filling out, doing just enough to not stall. Try not to take any risk. Smart. Then got the second period. Ziko had a nice mat return. Some scrambling at the edge shortly after. But his opponent had already escaped. So the coaches were kind of talking with the refs after that. I didn't even notice. I had to rewind it. But yeah, apparently his opponent did escape already. So Ziko sprawled and then reattacked after they reset with a blast double, bringing the score to 7-1 at the end of the second period. And then in the third period, Ziko just rode his opponent out and won 7-1. So it's pretty good. Paint by numbers, basic stuff. And the higher level guys, as you can see here, and really everyone I'm going to talk about here, they're not doing anything fancy. People say it. It's the basics that win championships. Or the basics that get you on the podiums at these high level tournaments, not the fancy stuff. So, some food for the mind. And in the third place match, he's going against Anthony Tresh from Minnesota Valley. What do I know about Minnesota Valley? That's PJ Duke's team. Shout out to PJ Duke. He won the Eastern States again this past weekend, so shout out to him. But this episode's about the New York City wrestlers, so that's what I'm talking about here. So the first period. First note I wrote down here, though, was that the video was very laggy, and it was. And later on, I'm going to get to Brennan Sprague. And there was a match that he had where it's Leo Tansey. There's a match that Leo had where the video was real laggy. I couldn't see really what was going on. So the video was real laggy. Ziko almost had a double leg at the edge, but didn't get his 3. And fighting for the rest of the first period. Second period, Trash escapes. He got the first score of the match. There's some more hand fighting. Third period, Ziko escapes. Ziko goes for a low single, scrambles his way into a cradle, and then gets the pin. So, Ziko Madjidov earns third place at 152 pounds. Now we got Leo Tansey, 145 pounds. He wound up getting 6th place. So he ended off his day with a loss, but he wrestled great. So, the round of 32, he goes against Philly Provenzano from Fairport. So the first period, Philly hits a modified dump for 3. He was kind of like in a double under. He kind of dumped him from there. Pretty unique, pretty cool. Then Leo initiated a scramble for 2 points. So he wound up scoring from the scramble. Philly escaped, and then the period ended 4-2 Philly. And for anyone asking, yes, his name is Philly. Yes, Philly. That's his name. Second period, Philly escapes again, then hits a proper dump, the common dump that we've all seen before, and now the score is at 8-2. Philly hits a tilt and gets 4 back points, 12-2. Third period, Leo shoots, initiates a scramble, but gets scored on, so now the score is 15-2. Then Philly tilts Leo one last time to win via Techfall. So that's the first match he lost. Then he wound up winning, according to Collegiate Wrestling Instagram. He wound up winning 6 matches straight to get to the consolations, to make sure he secured a spot on the podium. This is that 6th match. He has a rematch against Philly. So the first period, a lot of back and forth. Philly scored first again. Second, and then they were just, wrestling around. Some scrambling, some flurries. Nobody scored after that. The second period, Leo tried to hold him down on top, but Philly escaped. A bunch of scrambles happened, but then from one of them, Leo finally scored. But then Philly escaped again, so 5-3 Philly. But still, a close match. And then in the third period, it took a few attempts, but Leo was able to get out from bottom. And then after a long scramble, Leo scores and gets Philly to his back. And after some back points, Leo got his win back, 11-5. He was real happy about that one. It's real cool to wrestle real hard, wrestle back after a loss, and place at a high level tournament. It's even better if you get a win back from somebody that beat you early in the tournament. That must have felt great for Leo. And now the 5th place match, Leo's going against AJ Didas from Clarence. First period, Didas finishes a single leg for 3. And that's really all that happened. Didas just rolled him out for the rest of it. Second period, down block reattack for 3 more by Didas. Then a tilt, now the score is 10-0. Leo escapes, then gets countered, now the score is 13-1. Third period, Leo reverses a shot attempt and brings the score to 13-4. Didas escapes, but Leo then gets 3 more after a lot of chain wrestling. So what Leo did is he went for a double, and then he went behind him, and then he was able to get a single leg, and then finish that. So now the score is 14-7. Didas escaped and won the match, but Leo gets the final takedown, 15-10. So Leo wrestled great. He looked very tough, and he lost nothing by ending off the day at a loss because he earned his way on that podium. Even though he lost the match, he wrestled great. So Leo Tansey, 6th place, 145 pounds from Collegiate High School. And now we go to James Madison High School. Head coach Steve Santamoro. We got Amin Ibrahim, 215 pounds. Steve likes to call him Mean Amin. He wound up getting 8th place. So in the Tansey round of 8, number 2, he goes against Wilson Quintanilla from Farmingdale. That is in Long Island, as well as Chaminade, as I mentioned earlier. So in the first period, Amin went for a shot towards the end of the period. He scored, and then he got reversed. Second period, Amin flattened out his opponent because he was on top and puts him on his back for 4 back points. Then he does the same thing after a few moments again, and then now the score is 11-2. Amin in the lead, and he pretty much stayed on top for the whole rest of it. Third period, Amin's on bottom this time. He escapes. Now the score is 12-2. Later on, Wilson went for a terrible throw. I don't know what he was thinking. Then Amin countered it, got another 3 points. Stayed on top, and then Amin went on to win that match 15-2. Very dominant win. Did everything he had to do, and he didn't do anything unnecessary. It was basic. The basics are what win championships. The basics are what gets you placements at these high-level tournaments, not the fancy stuff. So it's a great job by Amin. So then he goes into the 7th place match against Matthew Harold. The first period, Harold just got a quick takedown on Amin. He was being very aggressive. Then he eventually got him on his back and pinned him in the first. So that wound up happening at the end there, but Amin definitely had a great showing in the entire tournament and definitely earned his way on that podium. So Amin Ibrahim got 8th place, 215 pounds. So that's 4 Eastern States places so far, including Evin Gursoy, the champ. 4 of them from New York City. It's a big deal. And then last but not least, Brennan Sprague won senior foul, under 16 pounds. He wound up taking 8th place. So he had a couple of first period pins in his first few matches. And then he gets to the round of 16 and he goes against Cooper Murley, a returning state champion. So the video, like I said earlier, it was Sprague I was talking about, not Leo's. Not any of Leo's matches, it was Sprague's. But the video was just very laggy. Very, very laggy. So the notes are a little iffy. So the first period, I couldn't tell what was going on. It was just so laggy. I guess if I interview Sprague again, then I guess I'll know what happened during that match. But I really couldn't figure out what was going on. So I skipped ahead. The second period, I still couldn't figure out what was going on. That camera work was terrible. It was just laggy. It wasn't good. Flo might need to do something about that. But the score was 8-5 Murley, so he was in the lead. Still a decently close match. They scrambled out of bounds and wound up being tied up 11-11. So Sprague must have scored somewhere within that scramble. Or they both must have. Again, that part of it was laggy, but then the lag went away and I saw Murley escaped and then got a takedown in the last 10 seconds and won 15-12. So with the lag, it was kind of hard to know exactly what went down, to get very detailed with the match, but Sprague was able to have a really close match with a great wrestler like that. So that just shows how good Brennan Sprague is. And like I said, when I interviewed him, like he mentioned, when I interviewed him, he hadn't been wrestling for that long. Sprague really hasn't been wrestling for that long. Not full time anyway. He got hurt his sophomore year. So, coming back from the injuries and stuff like that, he broke his neck. And he's wrestling really well at high-level tournaments like this. Now, before I get to the 7th place match to continue with Sprague, he went on a tear after that. He had like 4 pins in a row. 4 pins in a row. En route to that 7th place match. Everybody's bracket's a different size. Like I mentioned Leo earlier, he had to win 6 times to get to the place of the match. But Brennan, he had to wrestle a little bit less than that, but he had like 4 pins in a row. He went on a tear. So he goes against Andrew Poe from Valley Stream North, another Long Island team. Actually wrestled at the Valley Stream North tournament back in high school a couple times. I don't remember if I wrestled anyone from North, but I do remember being at that tournament a couple times. So the first period, a very nice sweep single by Sprague. But Poe got the reversal and got back points. Second period, Poe escaped. Brennan tried to throw him, but got countered. So now the score is 9-3 Poe. And I think Brennan tried to throw him because maybe it was throws that got him all those first period pins before this match happened. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe every pin that Brennan got probably was from a throw. So maybe it's one of those, it's probably the law of diminishing returns. Even if it works 5 times, it might not work the 6th time. Maybe it's one of those things. But he got countered, so now the score is 9-3. Then Sprague escaped from bottom, so now it's 9-4. Sprague finished a really good single leg, so that was good. He scored off of that. And then Poe hits a headlock and got back points. Then Sprague tried to counter with a headlock of his own, but got reversed. Again, probably dug into the well one too many times. Now the score is 15-7. A further deficit. So then the third period comes around. Poe counters Sprague's attack with a fireman's carry and gets back points. Sprague escapes during a scramble, but Poe scores again. Now the score is 22-8 with Poe in the league. And then Brennan went for a duck under, but Poe counted it and won 23-8. That is a tech fall. So, obviously not the way you want to go out, right? But even with this, Brennan, like if you watch the match, Brennan wrestled real well. Maybe dug into the well a few too many times with his throws, with the attempts of throws, but he wrestled really well, even throughout the entire tournament, especially that match with Cooper Murley. From what I was able to see of it, even though it was lagging, he wrestled really well. And no one wants to end off the tournament with a loss, but getting to a placement, any spot on the podium at a high-level tournament like this, especially the guys from NYC, it's a big deal. It looks really good, and if they can build on this, we might see some familiar faces on the podium in Albany. So, congrats to everybody here that competed this past weekend. Congrats on getting on the podium. And I'll say it again, based on the wrestling I saw, the way these guys are wrestling, you know, the wins they had, the close matches they had with high-level wrestlers and stuff. Leo losing to the guy in the beginning of the tournament and then beating him again so he can earn a spot on the podium. You know, Sprague having a very close match with a returning state champion. Evin Gursoy doing Evin Gursoy things. James Madison getting a place, you know. It's all real good stuff, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see some familiar faces on the podium in Albany.